House in order. As people are joining in, it's 10 o'clock in Eastern time, and it's 8:30 in India time. So we know folks will be joining in today. Um, Requesting everybody who's listening right now, if you can please co-tweet or retweet the pin tweet in the nest. So you see that tweet that I just the main tweet that will really help bring people in, and also share it with folks who want to be part of it. Again, Prince, do accept the co-host. Uh, we will talk about the initiative we're doing here in New York too. So again, I just want to thank Niraj Shah ji that he's taken time out. I know it's been a very, very busy day for many of you, but just wanted to do a deep dive into really the most amazing week at Davos. And of course, we know the market fluctuates and moves, and we'll get into it. So just getting another 2 minutes before we move forward. I request Prince if you can drop and rejoin so that we can, overcome any technical issues. Welcome, Sejal. It's great to have a young, dynamic leader like you join us. What a great way to start. Thank you again for joining us, Sejal.
Audible?
Absolutely.
Oh
Welcome.
yeah, I've joined from my laptop today. I just wanted to, say hi and extend some support to the space. That's all, but I will be there as a listener.
Excellent. But stay at the speaker panel. Great. Great to have you. And thank you so much for your support. Means a lot to us. And we're getting started in the next 2 minutes. Just getting the house in order. Again, requesting folks to retweet, co-tweet, so that we can share and listen to this most amazing, I think one of the most celebrated business journalists and senior journalist that we have with us today, Neeraj ji. So another 2-3 minutes before we start, I'm just getting my co-host in order. Prince, if you can drop out and drop in, that'll really help. I think we can get started really because I think it's 10:04 here, and many of you have joined now. So welcome everybody. This is the monthly Twitter space that we try to organize really on the India journey. And just a few words before I really introduce our main speaker. Really is. India 2047 really came through a journey that, many of us were part of at the diaspora. We have Rakesh ji in the listening, we have Asim, we have Leal, many of us who were part of this India 75 journey. We realized that a lot of focus, especially in the US, was looking at India as a service industry. And when I was prompted by the spokesperson, MEA spokesperson Jaiswal ji, he was here in New York as the Consul General. And he asked a very valid question. He said, there's a lot of stuff happening in San Francisco at sorry, I'm just trying to bring my co-host in, which is really looking at the technology journey. And he said lots happens in DC, which is very much looking at the political journey and the partnership between India and US. And the only thing that really happens here in New York, some of us who are here, is really the UN and the Security Council. He said, I really don't see a lot of engagement with the Wall Street, and I really think that there's something needs to change. So we came up, Vinay and I came up with this initiative with our founding members, who are also joining us today. Asim is here. We have, Rakesh ji and many others who will be probably joining us. So Vineet will be coming in. We really started to look at this, saying that what is something that inspires us, and the tricolor came very, very strongly to us, and we took the motivation and said, if we look at our beautiful tricolor and if we look at saffron. Saffron is something that the India journey is very much being talked about at the World Economic Forum, and Neeraj, I really hope you'll be talking about it too. Is really the how does the world move from where it is in energy dependence on oil, coal and gas, into the new renewable sources or the green growth energy opportunity, whether it's the solar alliance or the biofuel alliance or wind or tidal and so on and so forth. Green hydrogen, another very, very big thing coming up for us. So we said, how does India become the epicenter of really looking at the roadmap for the world on renewable energy? So that's very much the orange. And the green is, again, something that Vinay and I work is AI for food, which is looking at the agri-tech. So when this was happening, we were also in parallel having the huge food crisis coming out of Ukraine. And we said, how do you really reduce that 38% food that is wasted all over the world in the food system? How can AI be deployed so that we improve the cycle and the food cycle? So really, how does India really take on the agri-tech and the food tech opportunity and fusing that with the AI piece? So that's something which we've been working on. We'll be organizing a AI for Food Summit in Chicago, bringing some innovators, entrepreneurs, scientists, and many others who will be talking about that, and probably do a space in that particular area. Uh, and the white really is the DPI, right? That we are moving away from into a white economy, which is very much driven by digital transactions. And I think nothing better than UPI model. And I think and a lot more can be said there. And there are lots of talk about de-dollarization and all that is happening, but we want to stick to the white economy when we're looking at the Indian flag. And the wheel is for us the infrastructure opportunity, the manufacturing opportunity, and I think that's where you see that you and again, Neeraj will talk about that in his amazing coverage of the World Economic Forum. So that really is about the India 2047 Forum. Asim, Vinay, and some others we've been working on is to really look at how do we make New York the discussion of bringing investors, thinkers, entrepreneurs, especially young, entrepreneurs like Asim who are looking at renewable energy, but also recycling in a big way. And probably Asim will talk about that when you open up. We have Ruchit here. Ruchit is a most amazing green agro entrepreneur that I have come across, and I'm so grateful that Twitter brings again some amazing people. Sejal again here on the panel is somebody who's been my teacher on Spaces and has really introduced me to so many amazing young people. Again, thank you so much, Sejal, for always being there. And finally, my co-host has made it. Prince, who's been relentlessly really doing amazing profiling on the market and bringing together different discussions, experts, investors in that. So without further ado, I really want to speak about Niraj Shah, who's very, very passionate about the India story, and you see that, and you've seen him wear many, many different hats. But something which always strikes me is that apart from his focus on the Indian economy and the business story and being bullish on India, he's very, very passionate about a particular NGO that has been working on cancer. And that's something so critical, right? That we need to find that very particular important social cause that we can relate to. And I do a lot of work on sustainability, as you know, that for me, climate action and climate change and growth is not just an issue, but it's also an opportunity for us to innovate and do better. So, without any further ado, I don't know, Prince, do you want to say a word before we give to and ask everybody to give a big round of applause, the emoji, and welcome our highlight speaker, Neeraj? So everybody, if you're totally, let's have a emoji. I make it a little more interesting for us. So Prince, I don't know if you're still there. You can. Are you able to speak? Can you just test your mic?
Ravi, for me, Prince is a listener.
Uh-huh. Okay, because for me also, all this shows as a co-host.
I think that
That's
there's either
interesting.
something wrong with, his internet, that is one. You can ask him to rejoin, or don't make him a co-host, make him a speaker, and then that glitch will go away.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
do that.
perfect. Got it. So let's really go to Neeraj. Can we just probably dive down here? It's 10:11 here in New York. So over to you, sir, and really just tell us about your journey into the space, and then we'll come to the World Economic Forum. And again, a big warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you. I mean, you've been most effusive in your praise, but really the key work is being done by people like you who are doing these spaces on various topics related to India across the world. I don't talk too much about my NGO because we're still not FCRA registered. We made the application, are still not there in terms of the approval. Hopefully, at some point of time that happens, and then we'll be able to talk more about it. But that's a separate thing. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, this Davos was, or this World Economic Forum was slightly different than the previous few ones that I've seen or attended. Simply because it's something that Manish Kejriwal of Kedara told me at the start. It was the first conversation that we did, and it seemed a bit understated to me this time around at the promenade. But I think the move of the CII to call it that a credible India. So in some sense, it was um, incredibly credible. We've always called India as incredible India. This time around, we kind of mentioned India. In some sense, I mentioned India as incredibly credible this year. So the presence was large. There were 5 state lounges. There were multiple corporate lounges, multiple speakers, multiple bilateral meetings. Some that I attended uh, personally as well. And the messaging was that if India made a lot of splash last year, NAS Daily did a video on how this was not Switzerland but Singapore last year. This year, all that splash wasn't there, but still the Indian presence was very, very strong, which was very heartening to see.
Thank you so much, Neeraj. And I know that you've covered and written extensively. Many of us have watched your video. So, if you could really take a deep dive, really to go through some, you've of course interviewed some big names, but really to understand, maybe just for the audience to go step by step and drill down on what is the opportunity and why India, as you said, is become the center of the world's attention. And you've seen that in your interviews, your coverage. You've seen from comments from big names really saying that India is the focus. Do you think it's really like a kind of a fluff, or people really mean it now? I mean, there is definitely a complete shift that we see it over the World Economic Forum from 2023 to 2024.
Um, I would I wouldn't call it fluff for sure because you could so there are skeptics who argue that how is it that a global company CEO can talk anything about any country on a public forum wherein his subsidiary is doing business there. But even if I don't think that happens because these are powerful companies. I mean, we spoke to Peter Wozer of ABB, for example. ABB is a $70 billion company. The guy is powerful in his own right, and he's a global company wanting to express his opinion or her opinion in the case of a global CEO or a CTO, as the case may be. But in this case, it's Peter Wozer, for example, that I'm starting with. Off air, on air, the enthusiasm around business in India for India, and the enthusiasm around business in India, hopefully for some of the other global geographies as well, is very, very high. And frankly, Raviji, I mean, we do this for a living, but I'm kind of trying to say that aside of the fact that we are going there and talking to these guys who are not often heard, just the actions for Google to have its largest HQ outside of US in Hyderabad, for Apple to announce what it has, and a clutch of other announcements. And yes, you can counter argue by saying that the FDI numbers are not looking great, but I think they're not look very good for a lot of other countries. Part one, and even if people would refer to the Kearney uh, report on what the offshoring stories look like for other countries, and India may rank fourth and below Vietnam, etc. I I personally think, on the basis of my conversations at Davos and otherwise, that it's a journey that maybe started late for India, but now we seem to be in the thick of things. And during the course of this conversation, I'll mention about some of the things which didn't get mentioned at Davos on the interviews, but I experienced at various forums, and there are things to take note of. To be very honest, it's looking very strong, I must say. Now, if the world economy tapers down and CEOs take a backseat per se, global CEOs take a backseat around what's the capital outlay that they do across the world, then you can argue that who knows, the numbers may look a bit soft, but hopefully that will not be the case. And capital inflows, both not just the FI side but the FDI numbers as well, should probably start to look more impressive than what they have in 2023.
Thank you so much. We just overcoming some technical issues. I hope Prince and Asim, are you able to just test this unmute and see if you're able to speak?
Yeah, hi
Yeah,
guys.
hi Ravi. Hi, Niraj Shah. Good
Oh,
to hear
great.
you.
This is working. Perfect, perfect, excellent, and thank you so much, Neeraj, because I think all of us really want to go now spend like next 10 to 15 minutes. Just, if you could really draw the canvas and drill down, on the various aspects. What is the sentiment about, I don't want to get into decoupling of China, but really looking at manufacturing as a huge opportunity and the demographic dividend that people talk about. And similarly, the UPI and the India stack. If you could really speak to that, that'll be great. And the areas that have not been mentioned, that'll be great to talk about.
Um, okay, Raviji, if that's okay, I mean, and if we stick to the mandate around what happened around the WEF, because that is most recent in my mind, and we didn't have too many conversations on UPI because I think the digital stack acceptance and the fact that India has done something that a lot of other countries haven't been able to is well discovered, well established, and therefore wasn't quite spoken about as much, at least in my conversations. I'll be honest. Okay, we didn't talk about it as much as we talked about the fact that India is now, I mean, the most populous country with tremendous workforce availability and the ability to have a large market. Does it anyways make companies invest in India for the Indian markets and for global? So therefore, manufacturing right up there, right? We know that it's been a service-driven economy. A lot of people have said that this decade might see the shift from services to services plus manufacturing, and could that happen? And if you hear corporates who are present at both ends, so for example, if you get a chance, hear the conversation that Anish Shah of M&M had with me or with anybody else for that matter. I'm not here to tell you that just listen to my interview. If you just hear him and talk about both the service lines as well as the manufacturing lines, the interest around manufacturing in partnership or standalone by global companies seems to be very, very high. And this is spoken by company CEOs on record, off record. So that is part one. Uh, the other aspect you asked me to draw a parallel between 23 and 24, right? The World Economic Forum Davos. So let's use Maharashtra as a case study. And a lot of people maybe rightly scoff at the fact that MOUs don't mean business. Now, I have no way to verify this, but I would trust a leader of a state when he's making an on record claim that in 2023, out of the 1.5 or 1.6 lakh crores MOUs that the state of Maharashtra may have signed, they saw a near 75% conversion rate, which is high, right? The actual number of 1.5 and 75% would be circa 1 lakh crores, which is great. They have surpassed that number in a massive way this year. And he seemed very confident at the Maharashtra Lounge when the MOUs were signed with a lot of Indian companies as well about what could happen. Now, two of the groups that signed the MOUs were Maharashtra, for example, right? One was the Adani Group signing the 50,000 crore MOU for data centers. And that's a real thing. If you look at the data center economy, you look at companies which are setting up data centers, or the suppliers of data centers, or the automation companies around data centers like ABB, or companies which are doing the infrastructure for data centers like, let's say, for example, in Anantraj, and you look at the order book, you look at the commentary on con calls, you can join the dots that each of the players in the ecosystem are talking about numbers and the sentiment and the line of action. It seems logical, so or in sync. So that is one. And two, we spoke to Lloyd's Metal, which has done an MOU for 30,000 crores or 35,000 crores. The guy spoke to us and spoke about how it will be done piecemeal over years, but very confident about the numbers, and the results are also looking okay. So you see that some bit of a sense of some bit of this number is not looking all that outlandish, that it won't be just that a 10-15% conversion rate. The rates seem to be higher. It was high last year, and the government also felt that the number would be high this year. The actual MOUs 3.5 lakh. Even if they do 50%, it's a large number to be had, and most of it is manufacturing, of course. So that's why I'm saying that the theme out here, when we speak to CEOs, when we speak to politicians who've gone there, and the state politicians which have gotten the MOUs signed, it all seemed pretty strong.
I think it's very obvious that like last year too. The story is India, but also the states. I think that came out very, very strongly. We've seen that in Tamil Nadu, but I think also the UP story is another one. So if you could really talk about some of that, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, UP, you don't need Davos. You needed what happened on Jan 22nd. But I'll give you a small number from somebody who I spoke to today. So we just had Abhinandan Lodha come in because they've been in news because they sold that land parcel to Amitabh Bachchan, and somehow that caught the fancy and the imagination of people. But I was more interested in the quantum of development and what is his outlook out there, right? For example, so I think a couple of points that he made were, sorry if you lost me, but a couple of points that he made were important. That typically in a real estate business as well. Real estate demand as well as other demand follows infrastructure development. And while I haven't been to UP, and if somebody in the speaker list or the space list has been, can verify or nullify it, but Abhinandan seemed to suggest that the infrastructure development in Uttar Pradesh is to be seen to be believed. Now he was there at the at the function yesterday, and he mentioned that if you just look at the way development has been done in Ayodhya Ji, he called it Ayodhya Ji, and the way the development has been done there, it is at comparison. I specifically remember this because he mentioned that it is comparable to what you would see in Sydney or Prague. He used those two cities specifically because of the outdoor developments that both of these cities have. Anybody who's been to these cities would know how well some of the outdoor areas have been developed in that place, right? The space, the finishing, the detailing, and all of that. So if indeed all of that is to happen, then Abhinandan Lodha, some of the other people who were present at Davos as well, spoke about how little the investments in the state have happened in the past because of the law and order issues. And if those are now believed to have been taken care of, can money be invested in Uttar Pradesh back, which hasn't happened thus far in so many years? Now, it's a question that I leave people with. I don't have an answer to it, to be very honest, because I'm not an expert in this. But when I talk to people, they do seem to believe that there's a fighting chance now that a state like UP, which has traditionally never received any kind of investment, save for Noida or the NCR region, which has done that, might well start getting some bit of that, and which I think is a very special thing.
I can just vouch for my experience in Noida. I was there in April, and I was there again recently in January. And the last time I was in Noida was about 10 years ago. I met Pramodji. Welcome, Pramodji. I met Amit, and Prince too. I was in a state of awe, honestly. The infrastructure, the cleanliness, the professionalism, and in fact, I keep tweeting and people think I'm a little crazy. I always say that, Noida will become the next mega city of India. I think given also the reality, if you understand the youth dividend of India, there's a kind of a skewness, right? What you see is that the youth bulge of the southern states is on a decline, whereas the youth bulge of the northern states, especially up in the, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Bihar, Punjab, and you already see that moving up. And I think the whole skilling piece that Yogi ji has been investing on, that the last year budget there was a call for 100, skilling centers that was being talked about. That is something which I think is going to be very, very exciting. And I think, as you said, the journey's just begun. And I went on a pilgrimage. I went to Varanasi with my family. I've never seen, and the last time I was in Varanasi was about 22 years ago. And just to see how the tourism, in terms of the tourism, the pilgrimage economy that has boosted Varanasi as a city, is beyond my imagination. And just to see UP climbing up to be number two spot, that itself is so overwhelming in many ways. I think Pramodji wants to add something, and then Neeraj will come back to you. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
प्रमोद जी
जी नमस्ते, जय श्री राम। हिंदी में बोलूं चलेगा? Yeah, I have to speak in English only.
We actually have a mixed audience, as you see. We have like
Okay,
because,
fine,
and we
all
we
right.
also try to do the India 2047 because we don't want. I mean, you can of course Hindi mein bilkul boliye, but somebody or you can also translate because we do have a mixed audience here joining from Latin America to North
No,
America and Europe.
I can very well English speak in English, no problem. तो लेकिन the problem is that जय श्री राम तो हिंदी में ही बोलना पड़ेगा, तो उसका कोई इंग्लिश अनुवाद नहीं हो सकता। कल ही
Jai Shri Ram.
राष्ट्र का कल ही राष्ट्र का पुनर्जागरण हुआ है, तो इतने के साथ प्रारंभ करता हूँ। और राम से राष्ट्र तक ये जो कल हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने संदेश दिया है कि देव से देश तक और राम से राष्ट्र तक, ये बड़ा स्पष्ट संदेश है कि आध्यात्मिक एवं भौतिक विकास जब तक ये एक होकर के ही सर्वांगीण विकास हो सकता है। तो ऑल कॉर्नर डेवलपमेंट इज पॉसिबल ओनली बाय हैविंग अ बैलेंस्ड अप्रोच। नाउ इफ Vinit ji, no, Neeraj ji, I'll just ask a question and put forward some opinion as well, that Uttar Pradesh government has received an investment worth around 9 crores, if I'm not wrong, in Purvanchal sector of UP, and then around 4.25 crores in Bundelkhand area, which traditionally was very backward portion of Uttar Pradesh has been. But if we look at the development process, the concept, they are concentrating not only on one sector, but on almost all sectors. Say, for example, tourism industry, then one district, one product, that has been projected very nicely. That is being projected also very nicely and promoted very nicely. Then defense corridor. How do you see that contribution of the speedy development and growth of the state, which absolutely will, which of course will be converted into the country's growth. So that defense corridor, and then as you named some data centers development in the state of Maharashtra. So data centers are also being developed uh, in Noida, Greater Noida area. Then a big airport coming up at Jewar. Then few of the airports being developed across the states. So, and road infrastructure, of course, Purvanchal Expressway, then from Gorakhpur to Lucknow, then linking those areas through Vande Bharat. So the speedy freight and this traveling. So the almost all the cities are being linked through various modes of travel. So the overall, if you look at every district will have one medical college. So all sectors, the way they have started working on, I'm sure the economy will give a they will give a boost to the economy of the state, and as well as the economy of the nation. So how do you see the major contribution because of the defense corridor, Jewar Airport, and even the film industry being developed at Noida, Greater Noida data centers, and the tourism industry? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pramodji, but I'm going to ask Neeraj to hold on to that question only because Pramodji, at this phase, we are looking at the World Economic Forum, and then we'll dive into specific questions, if that's okay with you. But Neeraj, just going back on the World Economic Forum, and we will come back to this very important question that Pramodji has asked. I want to go back on. We've seen that there is a lot of energy. There's a lot of excitement, but really on the AI piece, Carl Mehta launched his AI infrastructure book there, and there's a lot of excitement that India will become. We've seen the interview with Satya Nadella and with Sama, very much talking about India being the epicenter, and the next whatever you call the fourth industrial revolution driven by AI, the maximum skilling and entrepreneurial innovation opportunities will come from India, and India will be very much part of that. If you could really deep dive, if that's okay, on the AI aspect, and then we'll come back into specific questions related to India. So we just stay on the World Economic Forum, and then I think Ruchit is gone, But there was another question that came to us was about agriculture and food tech. But go over to you, Niraj.
So, if you walked across the promenade, Raviji, you could make out that all the 4 days, the mood started with AI and ended with AI. Everybody was talking about how this aspect is the main thing. Like, for example, Apollo Tires mentioned that only through AI and data mining, they have brought up their return on capital from single digits to 16% as it stands right now, and hoping to take it to 20% without any other dramatic developments. So, as we speak, Indian corporates and global corporates already utilizing and using artificial intelligence according to them in a big way. Now, our insights into AI largely coming from what the tech service providers tell us, because the belief was that would AI disrupt them? And as has happened in the past, they seem to be confident that they will actually be the ones which will help the rest of the world adopt AI in a better fashion. So you speak to HCL Tech Mahindra, Tata Consultancy Services, the three business houses that we spoke to, they seem pretty confident that that is the way ahead, and not necessarily that they're getting disrupted. Uh, Everybody from PwC who we spoke to, or like I said, ABB, or for example, we spoke to a company called Checkpoint, which is an $18-19 billion company listed out of US, and their CTO was talking to us about how spends on AI are gonna go dramatically higher, and they will definitely help in improving efficiencies, reducing lead time for most corporations who are able to adopt AI better. Now, was there a clear answer about what AI is currently doing to either disrupt or enable organizations to do better? No, not really. It was one of the aspects. It would have been discussed in a bunch of WEF sessions, maybe, uh, which I was not able to attend. But if not specifics, it was certainly a part of every CEO, every consultant conversation. And almost everybody seemed to believe now that consultancy firms and IT service firms as well would actually be able to enable. HCL Tech, for example, on their HCL software business, signed, I think, 40 AI enablement deals in just one quarter. It just probably shows you how much companies across the world want to ensure that they are on top of the curve when it comes to AI. And certainly, IT service firms' expertise is being sought into this. Sorry, I don't know if it answers your question, Raviji, but that's the limited insight that I have, aside of the fact that I must tell you that everybody's talking about AI. Yes.
No, fantastic. I mean, trust me, for the last 3 weeks, I've been dripped into AI in a very, very big way. In fact, I have like back-to-back calls this afternoon just on
Wow.
the AI and industrial systems. I'm going to give the floor to my co-hosts, Prince and Asim, and Prince, over to you, and then Asim to you, and then I think we have people who are excited to ask questions. So the way we'll work, guys, will be we'll just take comments now, but then in the next phase of this conversation would really be about this India 30 trillion that everybody's talking about right now. How realistic is that? What does it really take in terms of India to really deliver that 30 trillion by 2047? Is there a roadmap? There's definitely an opportunity that the government has provided. It's the biggest citizens engagement initiative that any government has ever done to bring in ideas and innovation and comments into the 2047 roadmap. So we'll come back to that. And finally, we do have one question already from Pramodji that we have parked for now. But let me give my floor back to Prince. Over to you.
Thanks, Ravi. And Neeraj, two quick questions. So, first
Sorry,
question
Prince.
would be,
I have a small operational thing. Can everybody retweet the space and send them to DM so that we, as Sejal said, we're having some glitches. We'd really appreciate if everybody can retweet, follow our speakers, especially Neeraj. Go to his handle, follow it. The amazing speakers you'll see on the panel today. Subscribe to NDTV Profit as well, please. And we'll try to pin. I'll try to pin some of his amazing articles on this. Sorry, Prince. Back to you.
thanks. So, Neeraj, around the future of dollar? Any sense around that?
No, I mean, one great question. I'm not necessarily the expert, but most people that I've spoken to kind of talk about a wait and watch, because the demise of the dollar, written often in the past, greatly exaggerated in the past, never quite happens. I must tell you though, Prince, that if you want a more informed view on this, uh, not at the WEF for sure, but we did a conversation with somebody whose intellect I have the highest regard for. The gentleman's name is Manish Dangi. He writes very well on LinkedIn. But we did a conversation with him at the start of the year, Jan 1st or Jan 2nd, if I'm not wrong. And he's gone at great lengths to talk about uh, why the dollar dominance and its consistent annual upticks that we've seen against various countries, including India, might not necessarily play out the same way. That doesn't mean that the dollar will depreciate against INRs or some other currencies, but the quantum of appreciation that we've seen, its role in world settlement, etc., might be different over the next 20 years than, or the next 30, 40 years than what it has been. Sorry, I'm not an expert in this per se to give a misleading answer. All I can do is point maybe some listeners in the direction where I believe it will be most beneficial for them. I urge you to hear that conversation. It's Jan 1st or Jan 2nd. It's there on YouTube. And I think if you go to his Manish's LinkedIn handle, I think there would be enough written out there. He's one good mind who thinks about this a lot, as I know, and writes about it well.
Thanks. I'll surely have a look at that. And like, to fund a sustainable future, governments are going to have to invest significantly more than they have invested before. So this was the statement made by the president of the Singapore. So in line of these, like, even the DG of WTO had pointed out that green trade had tripled to 1.9 trillion. So adding that, the reshaping of supply chains can be seen as an opportunity, not a challenge. So any thoughts around that, Neeraj?
So actually, most people have spoken at length about that. I think so. Okay, here's the deal. While I think somebody made this very important point that let's stop talking about India. I mean, he talked about India. There could be other countries as well. But let's stop talking about India as being a beneficiary of China plus one, because India will get the investments that it is due to get because India can command those investments now, the highest population country, etc. But coming back to your question, sorry, I didn't want to veer away from your question. I just wanted to make that point that it's not about necessarily only China plus one, but the shift of supply chains from China plus one. There's a global. Um, I can't get into a name because it is an off-air conversation. Okay, but the company operates in India in a reasonably big way. The person was at Davos, and the person told me, I won't get into whether the person was a he or a she, because otherwise it's very easy to guess. But the person told me that by virtue of the fact that their clients want alternate destinations as of yesterday, and they are willing to pay a small price for it, or a premium for it, or a higher cost for it relative to what they've been enjoying in, say, a China, they are they will go ahead and invest in India. And the person said that there is evidence of so many of the clients saying that India is inevitable for them. And it doesn't mean only India, it's going across. But I think companies would want to do that. We heard last year, Prince, if you just remember, there was this chocolate company out of Switzerland, which I'm forgetting the name, excuse me, but it was a third manufacturing unit that they set up in Rajasthan of chocolates. And they said that they want to ensure that the lead times do not get scuttled out when the next time a COVID situation, God forbid, or some other situation hits China and there is a problem. Gavekel Research wrote a very pointed piece about how this decoupling as a from China is a big thing, simply because companies want to ensure that they would want to have a foot in a country which walks the talk and where rules around investments, operations, etc., are more predictable, and therefore Southeast Asia, ASEAN, India all come into the fray.
Thanks, Niraj. That helps. And then for our speakers waiting in line for the questions, I would sincerely request them to ask the pointed question, and that would be helpful if the questions are around the topic only. So we go, Asim can go next, and then Vineet, Vinay, in that order. Yeah.
Yeah, so is it fine? This is Seam co-host, and thank you so much, Ravi, for my question is regarding sustainability. And since we were on that topic anyways, I run an e-waste recycling company in India. Is if you could help us unpack the topics which were discussed at Davos, and then additionally the green growth boom which is happening in India, how was that covered and represented, Neeraj?
Uh, Azimji, thank you. Uh, so most companies are talking about having an eye on by sustainability. I'm guessing you're talking about managing all forms of resources, including the growth that the company clocks in, right, Azimji?
Yes, sustainability means circular economy, making sure that the growth is green and carbon
Yeah,
neutral, so on and so forth, everything which relates to reversing the effects of
yeah.
climate change.
Yeah, so it's funny that we're talking about this at the end of the year, wherein the world went back to conventional energy as well, because the world realized that it's very expensive and maybe not practical to just go completely green. And therefore, I must say there is a realization that this it's not a one-way street wherein you can completely abandon the old and usher in the new with the kind of resources that the world has. Right? I think there was an article that Morgan Stanley wrote about how EVs in the US as well, not just everywhere else in the world, but in the US as well, saw a sales dip coming in, and ICE engines did make a bit of an uptick there. We've of course seen that in India per se, of a low base, but the optics around sustainability, Asimji, were not lost. Almost every conversation spoke about the need to ensure that, if not in the very near term, then the long term plan we have this. And frankly, if you just look at India, I mean, Hardeep Singh Puri was on record talking about this as well, that India's putting in, I think he mentioned number of some 600 gigawatts, if I'm not wrong, of renewable energy by 2030. And and the fact that, if you look at it in India, the cost of solar is lower than traditional energy as well, right? And therefore, in some sense, some of the upcoming countries, emerging countries in this space, might actually just write the rules of the game when it comes to things like this, right? I mean, I remember one session, for example, having read about it. I think it was something around energy demand, wherein a bunch of CEOs were present. Wherein I think, if I'm not wrong, it was M&M CEO who said that it was the developing countries who could write a better set of outcomes. So every CEO worth its salt is talking about the need to do this, but at the same time, keep an eye out on the fact that we can't usher in the new by completely abandoning the old, as much as we would like it to be the other way around. But that is not possible. So that's one feedback that I have, in at least in terms of the conversations that I heard. I'm sorry if it doesn't completely answer your question, but I'm just referring to things that I heard or read at the WEF, as opposed to trying to second guess what others might have seen or heard, to be honest.
Okay, no, thank you for covering that, because I do personally believe that it's not that you make a transition 100% into something new. It's just always a gradual push. It's the
Right.
same thing when cars were introduced, when people were started using oil, getting the supply chain of oil was so difficult. And that has actually shaped what is going on in the Middle East now with the fall of Ottoman Empire. So thank you for giving that insight.
Yeah. I'm sorry if it didn't help, but yeah, this is what I heard.
Yeah, no worries.
Thanks, Asim and Niraj. So, Vineet, you can quickly go next.
No, thanks, Ravi, for hosting this firstly, and Neeraj, I'm a big fan. I've been following you for a very long time, as we've probably interacted a little bit on Twitter as well. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Very kind of you.
So I had a couple of questions. Well, uh, India's in the fancy now, and like you said, everybody at Davos also was speaking about how it's India's time. Uh, I think it's, I mean, being trying to train myself as an investor. I'm trying to draw from what Mr. Mangal used to say, right? Invert, always invert, and
Yes.
trying to stay less excited in good times and less gloomy in bad times. So just wanted to ask you a couple of questions on potential uh, structural risks in a sense, and what your thoughts are. The first one is uh, at Davos. Did you or did you get a sense that there was some chatter around the fact that we are in a tight monetary but loose fiscal space pretty much all over the world, especially in the US and to a certain extent in India as well. And the growth that we are seeing in India, seeing the consumption numbers come in, and results of companies like HUL, etc., which show that uh, broad-based consumption pickup might not actually be happening at the moment. And there's this feeling that maybe the growth that we are seeing is fiscal driven, and with large government spending on infrastructure projects and defense projects and the work and the likes. uh, how sustainable is that, you think, in the long run, and how much longer before this trickles down into the broader economy and starts panning that flywheel of holistic growth? That's my first question, and maybe then I'll ask the second one after you've answered this.
Okay, I'll make it short, Vineet. But firstly, thank you for being so kind with your words. Must say, on both the counts, it was there was. I would reckon there will be a wait and watch. There's a lot of expectation that in the budget this time around, who knows, there might be a bit of a capex cringe as well, because the government want to stick to the fiscal glide path, if you will. And frankly, India is not the only nation which is doing this, as you rightly said, right? World over, I think nations are doing this. But I would reckon that the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, and it'll be lovely to see what this vote on account budget throws up, or what the July budget throws up around fiscal consolidation, the glide path, and thereby the capex numbers that are being announced as well. So that's part one of your question. Part two, I think you mentioned about the growth at the lower end versus the upper end. I think this is a question that not necessarily at Davos, but across the last 1.5 months, we've been asking to various guests on the channel about the K-shaped recovery in the upper crust of the K. And I think the people who really think long term are talking about seeing this in terms of not necessarily quarters, but slightly longer, and waiting to see if the first couple of quarters of this calendar, even without a government push coming in, can some of the numbers revive? It's difficult to say. I mean, we've just seen the start of the FMCG numbers come in. Let's wait and watch if the commentary, because not too much is anticipated NHS, but the commentary around what could happen in quarter 4 and maybe quarter 1 of FY25 come into being. But I think again on that, for most people, it is a bit of a wait and watch. Though I must say, we spoke to the Hero Moto CEO at Davos, and he spoke about the spunk coming back while they are becoming premium. He spoke about the spunk coming back in the mid-range or the starting category as well. And we know that it's not happening because of the government. Pranjul Bhandari of HSBC, in fact, mentioned that according to her, some of the gumption around the lower end and the rural market also seems to be coming back. This was about a month and a half ago. It remains to be seen if we actually see it in the numbers and the commentary, but let's wait and watch. The last point that I want to make, Vineet, out here is on something that you asked around whether, whether the growth that is happening because of the government capex, can it continue? I think the government has been vying now for a while to see if corporate capex comes on stream, and until then, the government has picked up the baton, as it rightly should have, to my mind, of doing, because that's what's helped the growth the way it has. Now, does the corporate capex come back across the board? I think it's $1 million question. We didn't have answers out there either, or we don't have answers right now when we talk to companies or market experts either. The hope is that it will. We've seen at it bits and pieces in PLI linked sectors, in data centers, and some of the new age companies, green hydrogen investments, etc. Does it come everywhere else? Remains to be seen. So maybe that gives the answer to your question about whether growth can sustain. I think it'll depend on whether private capex comes back.
Can I, Vineet, can you, if you, it's okay, Vineet, if you can hold on to your question.
Yeah, sure.
Because we have both Leal and Ed, and just to be, courteous to all our, all our non-Desi speakers. So Leal, welcome. Leal, along with Asim, is one of the core folks we've been working to organize, putting together an event which is ready to look at the green growth here. And Leal, great to have you, brother. Please ask your question. And
Thank you.
Ed, welcome. And also, Anurag, great to see you back. Thank you so much for joining us. Leal, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just introduce myself very quickly and ask my question because I know we're short on time. My name is Liel Sinai, and I'm an Israeli American born and raised here in New York. I work at a law firm as an attorney in the bank and financial services regulatory space, and do a lot of work and really enjoy my work with, diplomats and working cross-culturally and with different, communities of different nations on these kind of public-private endeavors. My one question I'm very curious about, as I think about things from a financial standpoint, when we talk about all of the growth in India, especially whether startups in the not only services space, but we're talking about products and manufacturing as well. And in terms of the financing, right, especially as these companies get off the ground, are we looking more at capital, whether it's in the form of investment via VCs and private equity, or lending, right, like financing? Are we looking at that, or what's the ratio between inbound money coming in from outside of India versus money from within India, whether it's the government or the private sector, like PE shops and banks? What does that look like these days in terms of the financing of these companies?
I'm sorry, I don't have the exact numbers. Maybe somebody else does, but I'll just make a quick 30-second point. There is a clutch of proliferation of, for example, private credit funds into India as a sector that's really grown in the last 18 months. And most of the money that they are raising is raising from Indian residents. So in some fashion, and of course, getting lent to companies. So we know that banks' balance sheets are still waiting for the large private capex to happen. But if you talk to any private credit fund currently in India, Avendus, Neo, what have you, and the kind of disbursements that they are able to make, it's a small pool of capital, right? Maybe collectively about 20,000 or 25,000 crore rupees right now. Not very large. Large number per se, but not very large. But it is being raised from Indian HNI investors and being invested as collateral debt. So that's a newer form of lending that has come in. But to be honest, Leal, I'm sorry, but I at least don't have an actual ratio number or the exact number to this. I don't know if somebody else has, then maybe they can bring it up.
No, that's no problem at all. Just that response alone just kind of gives an indication as to the the growth from within India, right? The money that's kind of organically being invested as opposed to from outside the country. So that's very that's promising, and that's great to see. Thank you, appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you, Leal. Ed, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Ravi. Yeah, I watched I'm in the United States, been working on regenerative agriculture for many years with the top leading farmers that are really behind it all. Have connected with several people in India over the years, doing projects there. Vijay Kumar Thalam, one of them in Andhra Pradesh, and doing the natural farming. And I attended the soil session they had. I watched it online at Davos, and was really shocked at how poor it was, how lack of understanding that the World Economic Forum and the leaders they had really had about soil. And we found that as a major problem across the world, that it's really been the farmers and a few independent scientists that have really advanced the science and understanding and We've got a lot. We're using some AI. We're using metagenomics. In the United States, we've created actual soil health tests so that we can really have data about the health of the biome, of this plant, of the soil, understanding through research how a plant actually grows with its biome, how that then transfers into health of our food, and resilience. We're finding through our plant studies that we can create unbelievable nutritious and biome health in a plant that makes it incredibly resilient to just about any pathogen, disease, or pests. And then we find that when people are eating those foods, that's how we're really going to get resilience and health back to the world, so that we can be resilient to many of the diseases that have all of a sudden come up over the past few decades that we realize are probably food related. And plus, then we create, beautiful farms, beautiful rural ecologies that can really, with good, healthy food, that I think tourism and education will really benefit. So I'll land it
Hey,
there. But
Ed, sorry to cut you off. If you could just please ask your question, that'd be great. So we would like Dheeraj to just opine on the questions which you have, because there are a lot of other people waiting.
yeah, I guess the question is, because of the fact that, like at Davos, they really don't have the understandings of the future of food, how can we start working together a lot better on this to make it happen? Because it doesn't seem to be happening top down.
Sorry, not an expert. Maybe Raviji or Asimji, you might have a better idea.
I can probably take that, Ed. But Ed, I can assure you that in 2025 you will have a panel, and something will be coming out this year. I can't reveal much, but there will be a disruptor, hopefully being launched in Chicago in July at the International Food Institute. I cannot say more because there's NDA, but there is something definitely happening, and there's some big names coming along with it. So maybe you and I can do a DM and talk more about that. But definitely a very good point, and that that we are both Vin and I are very passionate about it. And we've been looking at AI for food from that particular perspective, looking at investors, innovators, food scientists, and many others. So there is some work happening. I can't say more, but and there is also an opportunity to have a paddle piece in Noida in India later in 2025 after the World Economic Forum. So maybe probably we can talk more about that in a particular space. I know that Wall Street and Amit have had their hands up, and we've had Anurag joining us from Chicago, which is great. Another great speaker and thing, and then data. Amit, you just went down. I'm bringing you in. So again, guys, I don't know how much time we have with Neeraj. I can go on because it's daytime for us, and I know it's you're close to 9 or 10 in India. But I know there's a list which is only increasing, and this is the issue when we try to do a space. People closer to 12 start coming in. So let me give this to Amit, and then to Wall Street, and then to data, and then to Anuragji. Yeah, Amit.
Okay, thank you so much, and yep, I'll come to the question straight away. I mean, you spoke about China a little bit, so we have the advantage of hindsight when we see the China's growth story, and now they have kind of plateaued. What are the main lessons learned, or what not to do for India when we look at the investment point of view from China's experience?
Well, again, lots of things, but I'll allude to something that I unfortunately don't remember who, but somebody who looks at macro very closely told about how the fact that the regulator ensures that. So one of the things that maybe you could argue that went wrong when China was the debt-laden investments into things which eventually turned out to be. For lack of a better word, ghost towns. Sorry, I'm no one to label things as ghost towns or otherwise, but there has been a mammoth uptick in property development, some of which has not been absorbed, and that's why this. But it was debt laden, and as a result of which we're seeing these issues in the property market. I think the point that the guest back then, when I was trying to draw a parallel about what is it that the same question that you would ask right now on this forum is what something was asked to the guest, and the gentleman had mentioned that the regulator, thankfully in India, is ensuring that the growth that is happening is not happening in a way that it spooks the wheels out of the car when it comes to taking debt or leverage. I know that a lot of references could be made around how household debt in India has gone up from where it was, but well, we still look at South Korea or some of the others, and we are way better, right? So that's as far as personal debt. RBI has raised concerns, and promptly, when it saw the first signs of issues, they have mentioned a caution around sub 50,000 loans as well, and this is just personal. So I don't know if I'm attaching wrong precedence to the question that you asked, but somehow something makes me believe that the kind of growth that is being done at the corporate level, wherein the corporate balance sheets are not that leveraged, at a household level, wherein yes, household leverage has gone up, but not quite there, and from the regulators front, wherein the regulator is ensuring that leverage at the corporate level or at the NBFC level, etc., is not gone out of whack, seems to suggest that maybe even if we have a decade of the country growing hopefully much higher than where we are right now, it will not result into an issue the kind that some of the other countries, maybe even China, has had.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take on Wall Street.
Yeah, hi guys. Good evening, good morning, everyone. Even my name is Amit here. It is, I think, it's a nice space, Ravi. Niraj, I'll put it directly. Question. Maybe it's answers even the Lil what he asked about the finance. Coming to the crux, my question would be: looking at LVMA, Chinese banks exiting a couple of months back, gold price rising. In Shanghai, you have seen that happening. Gold price keeps rising, so dollar dominance goes down. Domestic purchasing power of $1 is 2 cents. That's a fact. Looking at treasury bonds, what is happening, we all know. Fed, what is happening. So my question is all about blockchain. What crucial role it will play? What they discussed in World Economic Forum on this, and how a new system is being placed based on ISO 20022, which of course a lot of blockchain companies have talked in Davos 2024. And I'm focused on some of the cryptocurrencies, which is I'm personally working with them and I know about them because I've invested in them. Keeping in that mind, it's everything is linked because it's finance, right? The way we are leading next financial generation comes up, and the changes what we are changes what we are seeing actually laying off. That includes CBDC with Indian e-rupee, which is coming up maybe next 2 3 months. Changes are already reflecting to the people and started receiving messages. Personally, yesterday I've seen one of the guys received a message to move towards the digital e-rupee. So, what is the impact of overall finance when you see from the World Economic Forum from the blockchain perspective? And I know this is AI also integrated with this because they're working towards the rules and regulations around this. And across the world, it's already happening, right? So, just your point
Amit,
on that.
Amit, I'm very sorry, but I do not have a view or even a view, forget a strong view on this. I'm not a subject matter expert, so I'm very sorry. Maybe somebody else can take it, but I do not have a incisive answer on this. I'm very sorry.
Thank you, Neeraj. I don't know, Data, do you want to take it and speak?
Yeah, sure. A few things up top. So I didn't get to watch all of Davos and your interviews. I got to see a few. The overall consensus, right? You'd mentioned a few of the other companies that had, or you'd had a chance to interview some of their executives, HCL Tech, and maybe some others. I did share something from Axis Bank. Now, the financial sector, right, especially the Indian banks, what would be your outlook there when it comes to their investment in the renewable sector, right? And then what do you see the impact of that being long term when it comes to the availability of capital?
Sorry, was this a question? I thought he was answering the question that Amit
No, no,
asked.
no.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought you were answering Amit's question. I'm so sorry. Could you please go
Yeah,
at it again? I'm very sorry for this.
no, but it's fine. Thank you for your time and for
No,
also
but
attending.
if we can quick 30 seconds, just
Yeah,
ask me.
quick 30
Mention what you
seconds.
mentioned.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So you interviewed a few other companies, right? I didn't get to watch all of Davos. You
that's
mentioned
okay.
APL Tech and some of the others. I did share some of the other posts from like NDTV. So the question was the banks that are involved in India, right? Whether it be HDFC, Axis, you name it. Okay. What are their investments when it comes to the renewable sector? What do you see also when it comes to the availability of capital, whether it be in agri-tech, whether it be in renewables? What do you see when it comes to the outlook that they had for investable opportunities into India and the bank's effect there?
Good question. So, sector-wise investments from a bank's balance sheet perspective, I wouldn't have, to be honest. But when banks and we interviewed, I think, two banks out there, but even other, including State Bank of India as well. And I think that the question that was being asked to most banks is that are corporates, whether in the green energy or otherwise, but in the new age sectors, are seeking bank funding, or are they actually doing the private way as well? And I think all the banks seem to suggest that corporate lending, in at least the face saving for corporate lending in the last 12 to 18 months, has been the borrowing that has happened on the renewable side and the new energy space. And I would suspect, even when you talk to Inox Group or Suzlon, for example, and how easy is it to get the availability of finance from banks, I think their answer seems to be a resounding yes. So I would suspect that it's a two-way street, wherein banks' willingness to lend to some of these sectors and the corporates, the possibility for the corporates to borrow from the banks, both seem to suggest a strong green, if you will. Uh, do I have numbers? No, I don't. But do I have comments from both ends? A resounding yes.
Niraj, sorry to interrupt, but on the Basel 3 endgame, what do you think? Does it has an impact on that, on
Sorry, come
funding?
again.
The Basel 3,
Sorry,
the
don't have a
changes.
strong view here.
Okay.
Great. Let's. We have had Umesh ji probably. Sorry, Prince. Over to you, Prince.
Yeah, Anurag ji and then Umesh ji. So Anurag, you can go first, and then Mr. Umesh. Yeah.
You can hear me, right? Hey,
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Yes, we
so
can.
thanks Ravi for hosting this. Look, I'll not behave like as if I'm an outsider. I'm not. I'm a big cheerleader for India. I want India to succeed, and I know eventually it will succeed. The only debate point is the speed. Otherwise, I have no doubt in my mind. India has far too many talented people for it not to succeed. So that is not under doubt at all. I think if I have to, and it's not that I study I deeply study Indian markets as well. My only question to Neeraj would be, and it refers to there is an FT article today which talks about the passive money and how it distorts the price discovery mechanism in the markets. And so the crux of the article is that the efficient market hypothesis says that market price at all point in time the news that's available to everyone, and so at any point in time markets are efficient, the price reflects the reality. However, the passive flows, which is mostly the ETF flows in US, they have distorted the market to the extent that the index companies which are indexed, ETFs are indexed to some of the other index, that kind of doesn't react adversely to any bad news, and so it's kind of not a fair price discovery mechanism. So, Neeraj, and I've been saying this for some time on some of the other channels in India as well, that the SIP money, although with very good intentions, and it worked for a while pretty good, but I think now we've come to a point where that SIP flow is actually distorting the price discovery mechanism in the Indian market to the extent that they've gone almost every sector. Fundamentally speaking, I can't justify any sectoral valuations in India. Is that a good thing? And how do we correct it, Neeraj?
Well, Anurag, so okay, we can debate on this till the cows come home. To be honest, right? and there won't be a right answer out here. So, for example, if you look at SIP money into passive funds, and which is maybe not necessarily happening right at the retail end, but also happening because of the institutions putting in or X percentage into passive funds, which is coming in NPS, so on and so forth. Maybe you can argue that some of it might be there, but if you look at active mutual funds or active PMSs, which is not necessarily the retail SIP money, but money coming in, and you could argue that because they're getting the money, they have to put in the money. They've been sitting on reasonably large portions of cash trying to time the market as well. And these are funds that you normally expect to do that. So that is part one, that not everybody is putting in money at all levels, despite the fact that they're getting money in a regular fashion. So that is part one. But your larger question around whether SIP money and money regularly coming in into passive funds is distorting, do any of us actually believe that India is at a stage right now, or Indian markets are at a stage right now, wherein the quantum of money flowing into passive is so large relative to what the world has seen that it could actually be doing that? Not quite sure. A lot of passive money, for example, goes into, at least the ones that come in from the institution side, goes into large cap funds. And yes, the valuations in India might be a bit expensive relative to history, but large cap valuations didn't look as stretched as the mid cap and the small cap valuations, right? So I don't know if the large cap numbers or the large cap valuations were as distorted by the advent of passive money in the last 18 months, so as to cause fear. I may be wrong here, and you may have a different view as well, Anurag. But frankly, I mean, at 21, 22 times, is it as distorted so as to cause a fear? No. At the small cap end, yes, but small cap wasn't quite getting the passive money that we're talking about.
Thanks, Niraj.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks. No. I totally appreciate it. Maybe if I can just leave with the last comment. When I meant passive, now
Hi, Ravi.
passive
Can you
out.
hear me? I guess
Okay,
it's working.
I'll stop. Please go on.
Yeah, Mr. Umesh.
Yeah, can you hear me clearly? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Just very quickly, Ravi, thank you so much for organizing this. And Niraj, I follow all of you in my list and really like the takes you're having on Indian economy and everything. So just a very quick take. My name is Umesh. I'm based in London, and I've been in Europe for the last 30 years and have been instrumental in bringing engineering services to India in 2000s. Basically bringing Airbus and everyone to India. Currently, I'm working on my own company. We are building solutions using language models and other models, and we are also doing research in the field of making models temporally aware with Google DeepMind and also Technical Institute of Munich. So that's just the background. I just wanted to ask you a question. I was in Davos for 2 days, actually. I was coming on behalf of UK Trade and Investment to actually promote UK as a destination for AI research. And I was also involved in Station F in Paris. So if you're not aware of that, you might look up. So that's the ecosystem that France government has built and UK has been left behind. And we are working on that. But I'm very closely interested in development of AI in India. And currently, we are completely lacking in that in terms of we are truly a GPU poor country currently. If you really look at the number of GPUs that are there in the world, 80% of the GPUs are particularly located in the Western Hemisphere, and rest are spread across China and Japan and all those places. And currently, there is hardly any kind of real true AI research that is going on in India. And you can see from NVIDIA's presence in India. So I just wanted to hear your views on any kind of discussion you heard in Davos where Indian companies and Indian government officials were talking about any kind of AI concentration or creating an AI ecosystem in India. Because I'm also going to be part of World AI Summit, which is happening in Cannes in 2 weeks' time. And then I'm flying to India for a month, actually, to set up my own center in Bangalore. So I just wanted to kind of take your view on that.
No, sorry. I mean, Umesh, firstly, all the best for all that you're doing, and great to hear people coming into India and doing these things, especially somebody who's been in Europe for 30 years. But no, unfortunately, at least, I mean, I didn't hear about companies, nor did I ask them about developing an AI ecosystem. Maybe I should have, and it's a good cue that you've given me for the result season with some of the other companies left. But to answer your question, did I ask them about this and did they talk about it? Maybe they did, but I don't know. I certainly didn't ask them about this, so I'm sorry to disappoint you.
No, that's fine, Niraj. Can I just jump in very quickly? This is kind of an appeal to all people here who are, whether working for India, in the favor of India, or supporting India, that we are literally left behind in this entire race. And just to give you kind of put it in perspective, UK government made 1.1 billion pounds of investment in 2019 in AI field. And last year, during AI Safety Summit, which happened in the UK, I was part of that. They declared 80 billion pounds of investment to create the entire infrastructure in the UK. And we are still left behind, honestly. Like I'm running my company and I'm having a challenge to find people. So I'm actually relying on my friends in San Francisco and in Paris to get the kind of people that I need. And that's the kind of work that I want to do in India. So I'm already talking to some of the people in India to find the candidates which can be developed, to come to that level of research and everything. So my point is that this tsunami is coming, and we are being left behind once again, because when internet came, we were nowhere on the scene, and fortunately we caught up because of the software development and everything. But this is a different ballgame altogether. So if you guys can organize some kind of a forum where we can talk about specifically AI for India, I would try to bring the best amount of resources that I can bring. But we really need to put India on the map on this particular part, because we are really left behind.
Yeah, thank you so much, Umesh. Just to let you know that the next Twitter space is actually going to be with the Honorable Minister Rajiv Shekharan, and we are getting into AI and the DPI initiative. So definitely, I've sent you a message. We'll connect on that. So the next space, by the way, folks, everybody, in 2 weeks we'll be having the Honorable Minister talking about the AI opportunity and the DPI deep dive. So with that, I know that we've been going on. We had thought we'll do it for 60 minutes, but we're almost close to an hour. Sorry, 1.5 hours. So we will probably take a last comment from Krishna. If you have any, Krishna, we definitely need your voice into the mix. And with that, we'll probably end the day. Krishna, sorry. Okay, I think I believe it's pretty late now in I think we'll take this final comments and just want to say, our, gratitude to you for really, staying on so late with us and sharing such great insights from Davos, Niraj. Very, very grateful to all the other folks who joined us. Thank you, Prince and Vineet and Asim for co-hosting. Amits, there are like multiple Amits who came in and out. Uh, so collective Amits to you. Anuragji, thank you so much for coming. I know you're very busy, and again, great to connect with you, Umesh ji. But again, thank you so much. We try to do this really to bring focus to India and the India opportunity. And we will be back soon with the more announcements of our next speakers. So, Neeraj, your final comments and conclusions, sir.
No, I mean, Raviji, thank you so much. This was lovely and a great learning as well from some of the questions that were asked, particularly around passive, around this whole AI thing. I've told Umesh to send me an email with regards to this as well. But fabulous to see the interest around our country and just around countries which are believe in co-developing and coexisting. And that's the message that I think one of the leaders, Gautam Adani, wrote in his note as well at the end of it. So yes, thank you for having me as one of the speakers today.
Thank you so much. I really encourage everybody to follow Niraj Shah and NDTV Profit and all the other speakers. The amazing line of folks here from Prince, Vineet, Wall Street, Anurag, Data, and Data done a data deep dive into the Indian stack. You can look at that, the pinned tweets. We also have other folks now joining us, Sonuji, and but lovely. Thank you so much. Prince, do you want to say something before we close? Prince?
Yeah, thank you so much, Neeraj sir. The kind of work you guys are doing is amazing, and we always look forward to the guests you bring at table. You and your team are doing a fabulous work. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for your kind words. Much appreciated.
Avineet?
No, much of the same. Thank you very much, Neeraj. Keep the good work on, and all the best going forward. We
Thanks so
look
much.
forward
Much
to it.
needed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and see you soon. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.